Hello everyone, wishing you all good health, peace, and the comfort of kindness when life feels heavy. For so long, Ly Tieu Ca had carried the weight of raising 2 children on her own, her days filled with sacrifice and quiet strength. Just when the burdens seemed too great, an unexpected hand reached out. CEO Hung's father, a man once distant from her world, returned. Instead of judgment, he brought something else, a large sum of money. Not as charity, but as a way to ease her struggles and give the children the life they deserved. In that moment, Ly Tieu Ca felt a mix of disbelief and gratitude, as though life had finally decided to give her a breath of relief after years of storms. The afternoon sky was painted with shades of crimson as the sun sank behind the hills. In the small courtyard, Ly Tieu Ca rocked baby Long in her arms while Han played nearby, her laughter ringing like tiny bells across the yard. Life was simple, filled with small joys and countless burdens. Yet in Tieu Ca's heart, worry never left. Raising 2 children alone meant every day was a battle against uncertainty. That was the moment a familiar car pulled up, its presence unusual in the quiet countryside. The sound of its engine silenced the birds, and Han ran to hide behind her mother's skirt, curious but shy. From the car stepped an older man, tall and dignified, his silver hair glowing in the fading light. It was Hung's father. Tieu Ca froze. She had never expected him to come here, to stand before her humble home with such gravity. His eyes, sharp yet softened by age, scanned the small house, the cracked walls, the modest belongings. For a moment, he said nothing, only listening to the faint cries of baby Long. Finally, his deep voice broke the silence. Tieu Ca, you have endured much more than any woman should. Raising these children with so little, I can see the weight you carry. Her throat tightened. She bowed her head slightly, unsure of how to respond. She had never asked for pity, nor for help. All she wanted was to give her children love and stability, no matter how difficult it was. The old man stepped forward and placed a heavy envelope on the wooden table. Its thickness spoke louder than words. "This is for you," he said firmly. "Use it to care for the children. They are innocent, and they deserve the best chance at life. Consider it not charity, but responsibility, mine and Hung's." Tieu Ca's hands trembled as she stared at the envelope. She could feel the weight of what it represented, not only financial relief, but also recognition, acceptance, and perhaps a bridge toward a different future. Han peeked from behind her, her small voice breaking the tension. "Grandpa, are you going to stay?" The old man's eyes softened, and for the first time, a smile appeared on his weathered face. He reached down and touched Han's hair gently. "Yes, child, I will stay as long as you need me." Tears welled into Tieu Ca's eyes. For years she had fought alone, believing she had no one to rely on but herself. Now, standing in her yard under the crimson sky, with Hung's father's support and her children's innocent love, she felt something new bloom in her heart, hope. The night settled quietly over the countryside, but inside Ly Tieu Ca's heart, 1,000 thoughts stirred. The envelope of money lay untouched on the wooden table, heavy with both promise and burden. She glanced at it again and again, unsure whether to feel grateful or uneasy. When CEO Hung arrived later that evening, the first thing he noticed was his father's car parked near the gate. His steps quickened, and when he entered, his eyes immediately caught the sight of his father speaking softly to little Han. "Father." Hung's voice carried both surprise and caution. The older man turned, his expression calm yet serious. "Hung, you should have told me sooner." Hung frowned slightly. "Told you what?" "That this woman has carried everything on her shoulders alone. That these children, your children, are growing up without the security they deserve. Do you think I would turn my back on them?" His father's voice was stern, yet there was a warmth beneath it, the kind that only came from blood ties and unspoken love. Ly Tieu Ca lowered her gaze, embarrassed to be the center of their conversation. "Please," she murmured. "I never wanted to trouble anyone. I can manage on my own." Hung's father raised a hand gently to stop her. "Tieu Ca, Silence does not erase hardship, and pride does not feed children. This money is not a burden. It is my duty. You are part of this family, whether you accept it or not. Hung's chest tightened. For years, he had known his father to be strict, practical, sometimes distant. But now, seeing him offer so much to Tieu Ca and the children, something inside him shifted. He realized his father was not only acknowledging the children, but also recognizing Tieu Ca as someone worthy of their name. Han, sensing the tension, tugged at Hung's sleeve. "Daddy," Grandpa said, "he will stay with us. Is that true?" The word daddy slipped from her lips naturally, and Hung froze for a moment, overwhelmed. His heart swelled as he knelt down and embraced her. "Yes, Han, Grandpa is here. And so am I always." Tieu Ca's eyes blurred with tears. For so long, she had fought alone, doubting if anyone would stand beside her. Yet here they were, Hung, strong and determined, and his father, unexpectedly compassionate. For the first time in years, she felt the walls around her heart begin to crack. That night, after his father retired to rest, Hung sat beside Tieu Ca. The oil lamp flickered between them, its light soft and warm. "My father is not a man who gives easily," Hung said quietly. "If he has chosen to do this, it means he sees you and the children as part of us, part of him. You don't have to carry everything alone anymore." Tieu Ca looked at him, her lips trembling with unspoken fears. "But what if this peace doesn't last? What if the storms return?" Hung reached for her hand, his touch firm yet gentle. "Then we will face them together. Peace or storm, you won't be alone." Her heart, long used to silence and struggle, finally allowed itself to believe. Perhaps happiness was no longer a dream too far away. The following days unfolded with an unfamiliar gentleness. The presence of Hung's father changed the rhythm of the household. Though age had slowed his steps, his eyes carried wisdom, and his voice carried authority that made even the children listen. Han clung to him quickly, calling him Grandpa with innocent affection. Baby Long seemed calmer in his arms, as though sensing the deep roots of family he had never known before. For Ly Tieu Ca, it was both a comfort and a challenge. She had lived years depending only on herself, making every decision, carrying every weight. Now, to have someone else step in, and with such generosity, stirred conflicting emotions inside her. At times she was grateful beyond words. At other moments, she feared becoming too dependent, too vulnerable. One evening, as the cicadas sang in the trees, and the family sat together on the porch, Hung's father broke the silence. "Tieu Ca," he began, his tone steady, "I am an old man now. I've built wealth, seen success, and endured storms. But none of that matters if it cannot secure the future of those I love. These children, they carry my blood. And you," he paused, his gaze softening, "you carry their world. That is why I am here." Tieu Ca felt her throat tighten. She pressed her palms together nervously. "But I am afraid, sir, afraid this will not last. Afraid that one day, all this will be taken away." The old man's eyes met hers firmly. "Happiness always feels fragile to those who have suffered. But child, listen to me. True family does not abandon its own. Peace may break, storms may come, but if we stand together, no force can destroy what we protect." Hung, who had been listening quietly, reached out and placed his hand over hers. "Father is right. You don't need to carry fear alone anymore. You have me. And now you have him too. Whatever happens, we are here." At that moment, Han ran into her mother's lap, her little face glowing. "Mom, don't be afraid. We are a big family now." But far away, beyond the hills, whispers of unrest were already stirring. Rivals in Hung's business plotted in shadows, and a figure from Tieu Ca's past had begun to reappear. The peace she now held so dearly might soon be tested. Yet, as she looked at Hung holding Han's hand, and at the old man watching over baby Long with quiet pride, her heart whispered a vow. No matter what storm may come, this family will not fall apart. From the story of Ly Tieu Ca, we are reminded of one of life's most powerful truths. Happiness is fragile, but family makes it strong. For years, Tieu Ca carried the weight of raising 2 children alone. She lived with sleepless nights, silent tears, and the constant fear of what tomorrow might bring. Yet she never gave up. Her love for her children became her strength, her shield against the storms of life. This shows us that even in the darkest moments, love has the power to keep us moving forward. The return of Hung's father also teaches us another lesson. True responsibility does not lie only in wealth or success, but in the willingness to stand by those we care about. With one gesture, he not only offered financial support but also gave Tieu Ca something far more precious: acceptance, belonging, and hope. Hung himself teaches us about devotion. He did not promise a perfect life, but he promised presence. His quiet words, peace or storm, you won't be alone, remind us that the greatest gift we can give to someone we love is not material wealth, but steadfast companionship. The lesson is clear. Life will always test us with uncertainty, hardship, and fear, but peace is not the absence of storms. Peace is found when hearts remain together in the middle of those storms. When love and unity guide a family, no challenge is too great, no night too dark. From Ly Tieu Ca's journey, we learn that the greatest happiness is not in what we own, but in the people who choose to walk beside us. And when love is shared, even fragile hope can grow into unshakable strength.